Namaskar friends, this is Shekhar Mayanil here once again with episode number 19 of Yogic Neurosciences in Hanuman Chalisa. So before I begin, let me bow down to Ganesh ji and of course Hanumanji Maharaj, who is my own breath. My own breath is Hanumanji Maharaj. So let me start sharing my PowerPoint. और देवता चित्त न धरई हनुमत से सर्व सुख करई हनुमत से सर्व सुख करई. So this is what we will be discussing today in the episode 19th. और देवता चित्त न धरई हनुमत से ही सर्व सुख करई, which means to say don't worry about all the different devatas out there who are wish fulfilling deities essentially, because they have limited wish fulfilling capacity. So what you do is essentially, if at all you want all your wish fulfilled or your happiness, your conscious breathing is enough to get you all your happiness. That is the exact theme of our discussion today. Let's find out how. So this Aur Devata Chittana Dhari, Hanumat say Sarva Sukha Kare, there are a couple of keywords here, and that is Aur Devata, which is deities, Chitta means mind, Na Dharai, do not keep, Hanumat Hanumanji Maharaj, which is our breath, and Sarva Sukha Kare means all kinds of happiness, everything. Karai means make it happen, right? So what happens is, what Devata is Tulsidas referring to around here? So this is, there are different devatas in our Sanatan Dharma scriptures, and that is Vedic devatas, which include Agni, Vayu, Indra, Surya, and Moon. And then there are Puranic devatas, that is Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh, and their various manifestations, right? So these Vedic devatas they are forces of nature and are light. Light means effulgence, right? Whereas Puranic devatas are anthropomorphic in nature, which means they have form and human form, and the appearance also looks like almost human-like. So Vedic devatas have a limited wish fulfillment capacity, whereas Puranic devatas, they take us to consciousness by expanding our limited personalities into impersonal and our limited individuality into cosmic. So they do this through their own personality, own being, which is the personification of the infinite, right? So, and they work on all levels of existence to lead us to that consciousness, which is everywhere. So this essentially gets to our essential nature, whereas this does not. So that's what probably Tulsidaji is referring to. Do not worry about the Vedic devatas, but if at all you want anything happen in your life, it is uh, the Puranic devatas, or in fact, if Hanumanji is a manifestation of Mahesh, which means Shivji, Shivji's manifestation, and no wonder he has given all the science of pranayam in the world. I mean, almost all the science of pranayam and everything has been given by Shivji only. Now let's understand how consciousness manifestation happens. So, okay. So consciousness manifestation, when it gets, the beginning of manifestation is basically Akash, which means space, right? Which carries the sound. Through the Shabda, it goes into our ears. Then the next manifestation after the sound is air. So air is, which has the sound as well as touch aspect to it, can be felt by our skin. which is sparsha, right? And then the third manifestation is Agni, which has the sound, which has the touch, which means it is hot. We can see it also, it has a form. So the roop, which gets to our eyes. So this is the third level of manifestation, starting from Akash to air, and then Agni, which is fire, and then goes to the water has the sound, the touch, the sight, and the taste. So without water you cannot taste. So it is the tongue, the which rus. Say for instance, if your tongue is absolutely dry, you cannot taste anything. So that water is necessary for taste. And of course, gandha, which means it has all the five elements along with it, and that's how you can see you can feel or you can smell the fragrance, or even or any kind of smell, right? So this is what it is. So, but what it does is essentially, if what Tulsidas is saying, a limited data lead us away from consciousness, which means to say that if, say, for instance, if we worship Indra, what it will do is it will only strengthen our indriyas, which means the ears, the skin, the eyes, and the tongue, and the nose. So these all things will be get strengthened, which means we are going outwardly, away from consciousness. Whereas the devata, in the context of our body physiology and yogic pranayam system, is like that. So what happens is this particular consciousness, this is at the lowest level of consciousness, then gradually increasing the level to through kundalini yoga or kriya yoga or whatever, or pranic breathing, you can get to the third level, which is manipura chakra, and then the fourth level, which is the anahat chakra, and the fifth level, vishuddhi chakra. So this entire thing goes around in such a manner that we get to experience our own consciousness, which means that they are consciousness driven. So whereas the previous one was outwardly driven, and hence Tulsidaji warns us. I said, if at all you want uh, to worship, or if at all you want to invoke the power of breath within you, which will lead you to the essential nature, which is your consciousness. So there is a very beautiful story, I would say, the discussion between Uddalaka. Uddalaka is a student and Yagyavalka is a teacher in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. And what Uddalaka asks him, how many forms of devata are there? How many devatas are there? The first answer was 3,339. Then Uddalaka was not happy. He said, tell me really, how many are there? He said, well, 333. And 333, he said, no, no, no. Can you give me the names? Or there are so many of them. Then he said, well, who controls them? He said 33. And then he gave the number 8 Vasus, 11 Indras, 12 Samvatsvaras, Indra and Prajapati. And then 6 Agni. Said, tell me much more. How many how many devatas are there essentially? Then he said 6. And then he came to 3, and then to 2, Prana and Anna, which means food, and Prana is the main devata. Then he said, tell me, are you really serious? How many really essential devata is there? Then he said, Prana is Brahman, and which is consciousness. Prana is consciousness, and that is also called that, right? Which means indirect knowledge, or paroksha anubhuti, or indirect knowledge of consciousness is that. So what? So if prana is Brahman, then who is controlling the prana? It is the breathing. It is the breathing, which is Hanumanji. That's why he is saying Hanumata se his sarva sukha kare, is because that prana is also controlled by Hanumanji, which means our breath. So that's why he says Hanumat se his sarva sukha kare. So what he's basically wanting to communicate is, don't worry about the rest of the tree, or the branches and the leaves, and don't take a glycerine bottle and try to shine in all the leaves. He says, just water the roots, everything will be fine. Rahim Daji gives a very nice chaupai here, and he says, एकै साधे सब सधे, सब साधे सब जाए, रहीमन मूल ही सींचिबो, फूले फले अघाए. This means that don't worry about the rest of the plant or the rest of the tree. Just focus on the roots. So if you give water and nutrition to the roots, then the whole plant is fine. That is exactly what Tulsidaji says. Hanumat se hi sarva shubha karai, means just focus on your breath and everything else falls in place. Everything. You don't need to worry about the indriyas also. They will be taken care of. Because what happens, how does that work? How does Hanumat say sarva shubha karai? Say, first of all, it's a prana, right? So it basically bifurcates or pantafurcates into 5 different pranvayu prana. So which that's why the Panchmukhi Hanumanji is all about. It one prana gets distributed into 5 pranas, and which control our body physiology, which means our health is fine. At the same time, if we go about doing the proper breathing, the Chalisa breathing, all our energetics will be taken care of. Plus, we find happiness. I'm 100% sure those people who are already doing this Chalisa breathing are already getting the benefits of what I'm talking about here. So there are some respiratory centers. I'm just discussing this aspect of how the breathing apparatus through the breath is controlling different aspects of physiology. So there are 5 different respiratory centers, components in our medulla oblongata and pons, this whole area. And they are the ventral respiratory group, the central chemoreceptors, dorsal respiratory group, apneutic center, and a pneumotaxic center. These are 5 different receptor types, I would say centers, which essentially I would say that once the breath activates these centers, what happens is they control different. From there are some fibers which reach the control centers in the brain. And say, for instance, they control the temperature, they control the respiration aspect, they control the cardiovascular system. This is just a limited diagram, but basically what happens is they control the prana, apana, vyana, and samana and udana. All these things are sitting here. So from here, the fibers, the neurons go all the way here to activate these different regions, which are basically controlling the eating behavior, the hypothalamus, the water balance, the temperature control, and the urinary system, and the respiratory system, and the heart cardiovascular system. Everything is controlled by. So this whole complex is essentially Agya Chakra actually. So anyway, so this is another way of energetics anatomy, energetics anatomy of prana. So basically, let's start with here. Apana is pelvic to feet, controls the urination and excretion. And then samana is from abdomen. This is our Manipura chakra, abdomen, regulation of 4 other pranas, and assimilation. This is very important thing. Samana is the most important amongst all of them. Basically, it controls all the other 4 different pranas. Circulation also it regulates. And Vyana is the whole body, nerve, heart, muscles, circulation, joint. This is what is controlled by Vyana prana. Okay. And then Udana is throat to head, speech, memory, immunity, balance, posture balance, and mental health, mental strength, and intelligence. This is what is controlled by Udana. And of course, the prana is chest, controlling controls energy, vitality, respiratory, circulatory, and thinking capacities. So this is exactly what our breath does for us. If you dissect the energetics anatomy, of our body, then this our breath has this many roles. So how does that happen? This is just the hypothesis, I would say, that how panch pranas get formed just by conscious breathing. So let's say there is a pran vayu receptors in our, out of those 5 receptors, one of them is a pran vayu receptor, let's say. So it will have activation of respiratory controls centers in the medulla. If it is a Vyan vayu receptor, it actually controls the activation of circulatory system. Udan vayu, the neuroimmune system. Apan vayu is the activation of excretory and the excretory controls, and hypothalamus and cerebral control. The hypothalamus is very, very important aspect, because it also regulates the pituitary and the hormonal system also. Okay, and Saman vayu is activation of digestive uh, control centers in the brain, brainstem and amygdala. So these are the different ways that conscious breathing gets distributed to 5 different pran vayus, which will essentially get translated into pancha pranas, which means basically 5 physiological system is what pancha prana is all about. So with Chalisa breathing, the entire existence works for you actually. So if you do that regularly, you will know that the entire existence is enslaved by your breath. So this is what the Tulsidas ji in Ramcharitmanas says. Sumiri pavana sutta pavana namo apne bas kari rakhiye Ramo. से सुमिरी पवन सुत पावन नामो अपने बस करी राखिए राम. Which means just Hanumanji is completely in, like, he is actually what I should say, Sri Ram is completely encapsulated or completely enslaved by Hanumanji, which means to say is that with breath you can enslave the entire consciousness per se. This is what it is. Such a tall claim, I say, unbelievable claim. Sumiri pavan sutta pavan namu apne bas kiye rakhi ramu. He has done so much for existence, for consciousness, that the consciousness has become enslaved by breath. So no wonder, that is why Tulsidaji says, Hanumat se hi sarva sukh kare. Sarva sukh kare, Hanumat se. When Hanumanji has almost conquered, I don't feel like saying conquered, he's almost made Sri Ram is his, or the consciousness as his, then obviously whenever you have that breath, the Chalisa breathing going on, then Hanumat says Sarvasukh Kare, everything will happen according to what it is. In the next episode, we shall discuss what else happens to our brain when we do Chalisa breathing. In Hanuman Chalisa, there is another chaupai which is तुम मम प्रिय भरत ही सम भाई तुम मम प्रिय भरत ही सम भाई. Says that you are as dear to me as Bharat. Who is saying this? Ramchandra ji. Now Ramchandra ji is nothing but consciousness. Okay. So if consciousness is saying to Hanumanji, which is our breath, that you are as dear to me as Bharatji is, so then what is Bharatji then? And where is Bharatji in our, you know that where this consciousness was located in our brain, this is insular cortex, right? The right insular cortex was where consciousness was born, right? And then it expanded to all the parts of the brain. So he said that तुम मम प्रिय भरत ही सम भाई. Hanumanji, which is breath, you are dear to me just like Bharatji is. So what is Bharatji's location in our brain? So in Bharatji represents the metacognitive intelligence. If we read Ayodhya Kand of Sri Ram of Ramcharitmanas by Tulsidas ji, not any other text. Tulsidas ji's Ramcharitmanas, and that too in Ayodhya Kand, read really deeply the Bharat Prasang, the entire Bharat Prasang, and you will see that Bharatji represents Prakhar Vivek. Vivek means absolute discriminative faculty of intellect. Discriminative faculty means that which is right and what is wrong, and dissecting it out so clearly. Even if the great saints over there like Vashishta Muni and all these Raja Janak and all those heavy duty saints were there during that time, they got confused. But Bharatji's understanding about what is right and what is wrong is impeccable. You cannot even comprehend how much metacognitive intelligence he has. I think Bharatji is one of those characters of who was born the way it has been depicted in Sri Ramcharitmanas is a human being of maybe another 1,000 years, I would say, or much, I don't know. He is that perfect human being that can ever exist. So this metacognitive intelligence is an advanced kind of intelligence, and this is what we'll discuss next time, how conscious breathing strengthens that metacognitive intelligence, and which part of the brain is basically Bharatji representing, which basically is the house or the domain for metacognitive intelligence. This is what we'll discuss. Thank you so much for watching the video and subscribing, sharing and liking it. Please stay tuned for episode 20. तुम मम प्रिय भरत ही सम भाई, तुम मम प्रिय भरत ही सम भाई. We'll discuss it next time. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time and effort to watch this episode. Thank you. See you next time in episode 20.